you for this day. We thank you for another day of learning. Guide us as we listen to the reports and gather new learning. May you apply this knowledge in our institution to be a better and compassionate leader. Bless each and every one today. In Jesus' name, amen. So,
Okay, so I'll just want to introduce your topic first, no? Okay.
apat.
Uh, okay, so the topic that that we're going to discuss for today is about governance and administrative reforms, no?
Yes, pa.
Uh,
Yes, pa.
okay, so
Sir.
okay, so the Philippines, no, has consistently strived to implement governance and administrative reforms to enhance public service delivery, no, reduce corruption, and promote democratic values. So, at the heart of these reforms are the principles and practices of good governance, which include participation, transparency, accountability, rule of law, no, effectiveness of and efficiency, no, responsiveness and equity, no. Citizen participation has been promoted through mechanisms such as barangay assemblies, people councils, and participatory budgeting initiatives like the bottom-up budgeting, no, na tinatawag natin program, no. Transparency has been enhanced through the issuance of Freedom of Information, Executive Order, and the implementation of Government Procurement Reform Act or the RA 9184, allowing the citizen access to vital government information, no. Accountability is enforced by key institutions such as the Office of the Ombudsman, we have Commission on Audit, and the Civil Service Commission, which ensure the public officials are answerable for their actions. So the rule of law is safeguarded through the Graft and Corrupt Practices Act and the Sandigang Bayan, no. The country's special court, no, for corruption cases to improve efficiency. The government has enacted the Ease of Doing Business Act, which streamlines procedures and reduce red tape, no, while responsiveness and inclusiveness are reflected in the government's social protection and development programs such as For Peace and Gender and Development Initiative. And to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenters. Go ahead.
Before we begin, I would like to share this quote from Frank Herbert. Good governance never depends upon laws, but upon the personal qualities of those who govern. The machinery of government is always subordinate to the will of those who administer that machinery. The most important element of government, therefore, is the method of choosing leaders. Very timely to line up po sa paparting na election. This is something we have to put in mind always. But of course, beside choosing, we must pray for them as well as at the moment they handle their positions in our community or society. Good morning. I'm Dr. Baltazar, and also with me are Dr. Matias and Dr. Omadto to discuss governance and administrative reforms and public policy analysis and implementation. I am tasked to discuss the good governance principles and management, and anti-corruption measures and initiative. So let's start. It is said in our book that good governance principles and practices is the one that who encourages involvement, accountability, openness, and the rule of law. With this, we can ensure that we respect democratic principles and human rights, and that the government is sensitive to the needs and interests of their people. The following are good governance practice or concepts that we must have. First is transparency. It stresses accessibility and openness in public administration and decision-making procedures. We talk about transparency kapag we can access information, yung operations ng government can be closely examined, plus there is information availability via public records, government websites, there is a FOI legislation, lalo na siguro sa mga procurement, budgeting, and policy making. Next is concept is accountability. We can tell that if servants can be held accountable for their deeds, choices, and behavior. Example, ito yung may mga audits, performance reviews, public hearings, and may mga citizen feedback system para narinig natin yung pinaka-feedback nila dun sa mga authorities. Third is participation. A good governance should have active participation of people in public affairs and decision-making processes. Examples of this are community forums, citizen advisory boards, participatory budgeting, and public consultations that caters the interests and viewpoints of the stakeholders. Another good governance practice is when the rule of law guarantees that decisions made by the government are not arbitrary or discretionary, but rather are informed by laws, rules, and constitutional principles. Kasi pag ganyan, it guarantees all individuals' rights, irrespective of their social or economic level, can be heard. There is efficiency and effectiveness. This highlights the necessity of cost-effective and results-oriented operations of government institutions and procedures. There should be ethical leadership and integrity. This demands that public servants carry out their tasks and obligations in all honesty, integrity, and impartiality. This involves dapat ini-enforce natin yung code of conduct. There are training programs on ethics. There is whistleblower protection. Na nag-ensure ng penalties lalo na sa mga gumagawa ng unethical activities. Another concept is there is inclusion and equity. This stress the need of making sure that governance procedures are responsive to the needs and interests of all sections of society, especially the weaker and the excluded. Examples ito yung ine-enact natin yung affirmative action laws, yung ine-encourage natin yung gender mainstreaming, and resolving structural injustices and discriminations. Another is sustainability. It emphasizes the requirement of striking balance between social, economic, and environmental goals in order to advance the long-term prosperity of well-being of both the current and the next generation. So sana pang matagalan lagi. Another concept of good governance is requiring it to be flexible, adaptable, and responsive to changing requirements, goals, and circumstances. Katulad nung nagkaroon tayo ng pandemic, di ba nagkaroon tayo ng mga shifting. So dapat flexible tayo kung ano yung nangyayari sa ating paligid. Conflict resolution and reconciliation, the need for resolving disputes and advancing reconciliation by non-evident and inclusive methods. Example nito, promoting intergroup communication and collaboration. Collaboration and partnership stress the need of coordination and cooperation among governments, civil society groups, and the business sector, and other stakeholders in tackling complicated societal issues. There should be resilience and risk management. This demands the government to plan for emergencies, disasters, hence creating resilience and foresee and reduce the risk. So dapat marunong tayo mag-adapt kapag may mga disasters. Resilient government system improve the ability of governments and communities to weather or bounce back from shocks and strains including pandemics. Lalo na tayo, center din tayo sa mga disaster and economic downturns. There should be empowerment and capacity building. It stresses the need of enabling people to actively engage in governance processes and develop their ability to shape decisions and take collective actions. Example dito, dapat may chances silang to train. May training sila and nagkakaroon sila ng skills development. These are the concepts of good governance. This enhances the general efficacy, efficiency, and legitimacy of governmental structures, promoting special cohesiveness and sustainable development, as well as faith in public institutions. So for my next subtopic, we will discuss anti-corruption measures and initiatives. Sharing you this verse from Deuteronomy 16:19, Do not pervert justice or show partiality. Do not accept bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the innocent. The verse highlights the need for integrity in upholding laws and ensuring justice for all people, especially the vulnerable. So, when we talk about corruption, it is the abuse of authority given to oneself for personal benefit. It always taint yung economic growth, no? Kaya it damages the rule of law and erodes public confidence lalo na sa mga government agencies. The following are multifaceted strategy needed to combat corruption. Number one is enhancing government structure, advancing openness, and encouraging ethical and honest culture. For example, sa mga procurement, dapat transparent, and the public official themselves, silang nakaupo, should follow standards of ethics and conduct. There should be investigative actions kapag nag-identify tayo or nagdi-dispose tayo ng corruption. Kasi meron naman tayong anti-corruption legislations, may mga creation tayo ng specialized anti-corruption organization, and dapat na-empower natin yung whistleblower protection. Institution monitoring and transparency procedure and imposing the culture of integrity do sa mga nakaupo. International collaboration can also combat corruption. It offers a structure within which to cooperate in order to stop and fight corruption by means of extradition, mutual legal aid, and asset recovery. There should be also transparency and information availability. It is crucial in avoiding corruption kasi we have laws requiring public disclosures and open data projects. Kapag gano'n, na-minimize po natin yung corruption. Public monies must be used effectively and efficiently for intended use. Public money, theft, fraud, misappropriation are prevented by policies. For example, ito yung mga tax compliance programs and anti-money laundering laws. Kapag ganun, nagagaranty yung money natin is handled properly and honestly. Whistleblower protection, encourage those with knowledge of misconduct to come forward and report their concerns without fear of reprisal. Sana yung hindi sila mababalikan kaya sila natatakot mag-report kasi nga nababalikan din sila. Reforms to corporate governance. This is also critical in combating corruption. We must support this corporate governance integrity like audit, independent supervision, following law and ethical principles of company. Administrative procedures are streamlined. It can reduce corruption by ina-apply natin to through nagkakaroon tayo ng online procurement system, digital platforms for citizen participation, and e-government projects. There should be participation of residents and community. Dapat may involvement din tayo, no, in budgeting procedures, lalo sa mga community. There should be public feedback channels. We participate in community hearing and community scoreboards. So be involved. And must be implemented with political will. So this method must be implemented. Actually, ang dami natin mga laws and mga policies, pero ang kailangan natin lagyan ng pangalan. So we must show dedication in battling corruption by taking specific steps on highlighting this. So that will be my last slide. Thank you. My report will be followed by Dr. Matias po. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Wait lang po, sir, yung slide. So, good morning, sir. Good morning po, doctor. Good morning, classmates. So, I'm Evangeline Matias, and my topic is about the continuation of the contemporary trends in public administration jury practice, uh, administrative reform efforts in the Philippines. Next. So, governance and administrative reforms. Historical reforms started from colonial era to modern civil service. Next slide po. So, the Philippines began its administrative reform efforts during the American colonial era, focusing on professionalizing the civil service and establishing merit-based system. So, these reforms laid the foundation for modern governance practice, including the creation of civil service system and the use of English in government. So over time, these efforts evolved to strengthen democratic governance and improve public service delivery. Next slide. So the civil service, next slide po. The Civil Service Reform Program, uh, modernizing the civil service in the 1990s. So it introduced in the 1990s aim to modernize the civil service by improving human resource management, streamlining processes, and enhancing transparency. So it is a key reforms including adapting performance-based management and anti-corruption policies. So the program sought to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of government operations. So next slide. Second is the public governance. Next slide, please. Second is the Public Governance Reforms Agenda, which launched in 2005, which aim to enhance governance by improving accountability, efficiency, and transparency. This introduced reforms such as e-procurement, integrity development reviews, and result-based budgeting. These initiatives were designed to reduce corruption and improve service delivery in the public sector. So, next slide, please. Despite these reforms, uh, there are many challenges also, like corruption, bureaucratic inefficiency, and red tape, which continue to hinder progress in the Philippines. Corruption undermines public trust, while inefficiency delays service delivery. Bureaucratic obstacles, such as excessive paperwork, remain significant challenges to effective governance. Next slide, please. My next topic is about public policy analysis and implementation. Under the public policy analysis and which is policy formulation and decision-making processes. So first, agenda is set in policy formulation where policymakers identify, next slide please, and prioritize the most pressing issues that require government action. So, ano nga ba kung ano yung problem nito? So, from this problem, this process is influenced by factors such as public demand, media coverage, interest group lobbying, and political priorities. So, by identifying these key issues, these problems, policymakers determine which matters need immediate attention and will shape the direction of future policies. So sabi nga, ang dami nating problems sa bansa natin. Pero alin nga ba dito yung pinaka-importante? Or is, siguro napapanahon, just like nung COVID natin last year. So out of that, gagawa din sila ng mga policies. So next is the problem definition, which involves clearly identifying the scope and causes of an issue to understand its full impact on society. So this stage includes gathering data, conducting research, and consulting with experts to ensure a comprehensive understanding of the problem. So properly defining the problem is crucial for developing effective solutions that address the root cause of the issue. So, kung once na nakita na nila kung ano yung mga issue, Then, ano nga ba yung problema about this thing? So, ididig nila. And this, kung halimbawa na-identify na yung problem, so, syempre, kailangan din nilang mag-consult dun sa mga expert, so mag-gather ng data, tapos research, para makita nila kung ano talaga yung problema. And then, once na ma-identify nila yung root cause, then gagawa sila ng policy about this. So once the problem is defined, policymakers develop and analyze. Next slide, please. Once the problem is defined, policymakers develop and analyze various policy alternatives, considering the potential costs, benefits, and trade-off of each action or option. So this phase involves conducting risk assessment and feasibility studies to evaluate the impact of each alternative. So the policymakers assess the political, legal, and social implication of these options before proceeding. Next slide, please. So once the policy was done, the last is the decision making. In the decision making stage, policymakers select the best course of action based on analysis of the available alternatives. So this decision is influenced by factors such as political feasibility, public opinion, and the resources available for implementation. So the chosen policy is then designed and drafted for implementation with clear objectives and strategies to address the identified problems. So maganda naman no yung sa policy making natin, but sometimes katulad ng minsan election katulad na sa panahon natin ngayon, na minsan once na meron silang mga policy, syempre karapatan naman nila talaga na i-acknowledge sila dahil sila yung mga nakaisip noon or gumawa noon. But sometimes nagiging kwan yun na parang um, ang tawag dito, minsan na nangyayari sa basa kasi natin, yung policy na ito, iniiba na naman pag iba na naman yung nakaupo. So minsan nagkakaroon ng mga ganong issues. So that's all po. Thank you po. And my report po, our report will be continued by Dr. Umadto po. Mary Grace Umadto. Thank you.